How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at VHS 2. This is from 2013, so just a year after the original, and I guess I should say, look at that cover. That's a cool cover. The original VHS poster, hard act to follow, but I really do like the minimal design with those tape strips hanging in a skull. I've always liked that. Anyway, like the original, this is a found footage anthology film. We have multiple segments from different directors. We have a host segment and 4 main segments. So if you guys are paying attention, that's one less than last time. And in turn, VHS 2 is a little bit shorter. But hey, we had to get this out a year after the first one, right? So 5 total things. This movie stars Elsie Holt, Hannah Hughes, Lawrence Michael Levine, Mindy Robinson, and Joy Sanders. And I guess I should open up with my history with this. I don't think I ever saw VHS 2 and 3 in their entirety back when they came out initially. The first VHS was such a big splash. Everyone was talking about it, and it was quite the thing that got passed around. When the sequels came out, I heard a bit of a mixed bag with them. You know, some people really liked them, some people hated them, and a lot of people thought they were just okay. I think when VHS 3 came out, Viral, that's when a lot of people started to turn on the franchise. But I had heard a bit of a mixed bag with the sequels. Primarily, the aliens was what I had heard about part 2. You gotta see it for the aliens segment. But I don't think I ever watched it in its entirety back in the day. But I did hear a little bit about the series continuing, and I'd always been curious. I mean, especially because a long-running chain of anthology films is kind of weird. You know, you don't usually get long-running anthology shorts, so I was curious what would be in them, you know? And that always was kind of a thing, and now the 5th movie just came out, and I'm like, I need to go back and watch this series and just explore and see what's up. But I did go in with tempered expectations, partially because of what I heard, but also knowing that this is a movie that came out a year after the first one. This is a pretty quick rush. However, now that I've seen it, I do want to say, it's actually pretty good. It's not great. Well, saying not great kind of undersells it. It's pretty good. It's not as iconic as the first one. It doesn't have a story in here that's as good as Amateur Night, but it's not bad. And actually, all the stories in here, all the main 4 segments, there's no bad ones. And a lot of people forget with the first VHS movie, it had those 2 segments that were absolutely forgettable. So, on average, the shorts in here are probably better. The thing is, though, it just never hits the high iconic moments of the first, and it's not as surprising. And I think that's part of the thing with doing a sequel, is it's naturally not going to be as surprising anyway, because everyone kind of knows what to expect. But it also doesn't go quite as hard as the first one did. The first one was very surprising in that it was such a hard R film that kind of came out of nowhere. And this is definitely R-rated, but it's not that grungy, mean-spirited film that the first one was. Again, it is R-rated and it does go there, just not quite as much as the first one. The first one hit pretty hard. And things as far as the grungy atmosphere, like the tape and the shaky Blair Witch cam, those were maybe a little done too much in the first one, but to see things here in a movie called VHS and having so much clean digital footage, that didn't 100% work, you know? So it is cleaned up a little bit too much, and it doesn't hit the highs of the first one, but it also doesn't hit the lows, and I think that is worth noting. It's not as iconic, but it is incredibly consistent, and there is some good ideas in here, but I do also have a few gripes. But overall, a totally fine sequel. Let's just go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to do mini reviews for each segment. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the plot of the movie, but I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers. So without further ado, let's dive in and take a look at what segments we have in here. We open up with the host segment. This one's entitled Tape 49, directed by Simon Barret. He would go on to direct the movie Seance on Shudder, which I heard was pretty good. But this one, we open up with a guy spying on a couple in a hotel room, but in a little bit of a plot twist, it turns out he's not just a creeper, he's actually a private investigator, and he was actually spying on the couple because the guy was cheating on his wife, and the wife told him to do it. However, this is VHS, he is still a scumbag, and the private investigator is going to say, hey, instead of turning this over to your wife like I was supposed to, what if I blackmailed you instead? So we see what kind of person this guy is. He's there and he's talking to his partner, and he talks about how their next case is going to be looking for this missing college kid who they think is just on an alcohol bender. It's going to be super easy, but we can drag our feet and rack up the expense report if we want. They go to the kid's house, really a rough looking kind of abandoned house, and they find there the big stack of staticky TVs. It was an iconic image from the first one, gotta keep it around here. So the private investigator goes to explore the house and look for clues, and the partner is going to sit down and search the laptop where she finds video of the guy. And it turns out it's one of the kids from the last host segment. Yeah, he somehow survived that house of tapes in the first one, and he's gotten out and gotten obsessed with tape collecting, finding real, authentic tapes, and he's starting to obsess over them and catalog them. So a good bit of lore. It's one of those where they drop sprinkles of lore but don't focus on it too much, because this really is about the segments and not the connective tissue. So we get a bit of that, and it is cool to see the connection to the first one. And then, of course, the partner is going to start watching some VHS tapes. Things are going to get creepy in the house, and we all know how the drill goes. Overall, this is a pretty good host segment. Nothing that absolutely blew my mind or anything, but some good ideas in connecting it to the first and getting that iconic imagery of the TV stack. Yeah, it all makes sense. Nothing spectacular, but a good start. Anyway, after that, we move on to the first proper segment, and that is Phase 1, Clinical Trials. This is directed by Adam Wingard, who did Your Next, but he also, in the first movie, made Tape 56, the host segment. So good to see him getting a proper short here. However, Tape 56, the host segment in here is Tape 49, but it came later? Don't know what's up with that. Whatever. Anyway, in this, we open up with a guy getting a replacement robot eye. And I guess, yeah, that's a bit to swallow. The first movie was found footage, camera, realism, people acting naturalistically. The first VHS grounds itself in reality and then throws in splashes of extreme horror to shake you up, you know? Reality, extreme horror concept as like a twist. But here, we're with a robot eye starting out in a little bit of sci-fi territory, and we're expected to be told that this is the norm. I mean, it's not a bad concept. It keeps you in the point of view, which is really good. But, yeah, I don't know about opening up with such a strong sci-fi thing. It kind of breaks suspension of disbelief. But whatever. Turns out this guy lost his eye in a car wreck, and he's getting a test one. That's how he's able to afford it, is he's getting a prototype. And of course they want to record everything that's going on. What if I want private time? Well, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Or, you know, close your eye, put an eye patch on? I don't know. But it turns out the camera can pick up frequencies that the human eye can't. It's tuned to see ghost, and they're going to spook him and make him want to take, you know, he's like, I gotta go back and I gotta get them to get this thing out of my head. However, a mysterious figure will show up who will start to talk to him and kind of explain a little bit of what's going on. Now, that being said, with this segment, it is very much, see a ghost and run away from it. They do explain a little bit of the lore, and they explain, like, who one of the ghosts is. But that being said, that's kind of a side ghost that they explain. Like, who is this little girl? Did I miss a line or something? I'm not sure. I think we can make a guess as to who she might be, but yeah, I wish there was a little more plot details with the main ghost here, and I wish there was less running around aimlessly and more running around with a purpose or a goal or a way to try to beat the ghost or something. So I do wish there was more structure here, but that being said, I can't complain too much about a run-and-gun ghost-are-in-my-house story. That is pretty cool. There is a bit of an out-of-nowhere excuse to show breast in this short, but that is VHS. They're quite extreme in that way. Overall, though, a fun enough short. Not the best thing ever, but hey, I can't complain about a haunted house experience, essentially. The second one, though, I think is pretty better. This is A Ride in the Park, directed by Eduardo Sanchez and Gregg Hale. And you get this guy, and he's putting a GoPro on his head, on his helmet, because he's gonna go do a bike ride. Of course, you know, I said VHS characters, right? He talks to his wife on the phone first, and the wife says, "You ride that bike more than you ride me." VHS characters. Anyway, he goes on his bike ride, he's filming it, when all of a sudden there's a commotion. And it turns out, zombie apocalypse. Quick side note, this is on a tape, which means it's in the past, yet the characters in the host segment never reference that there was a zombie apocalypse. That's really the only thing that really bugs me with this short. I guess we can just say the government covered it all up. After the short is over, the government came in, eradicated all the zombies, and steered reporters away. It was a reactor or something. I don't know. I wish that was explained for continuity, but if we can just put that aside, the short is actually pretty fun, because the guy with the GoPro gets bit, and now we have point of view of a zombie. We strapped a GoPro to the zombie's head. That's pretty cool. They wander around the woods for a little bit, and I was a little bit worried that this was going to be a cheap mess around in the woods film. But then they stumble across a birthday party, and it's everything you could ever want. Initial chaos, followed by strategic tactical moves as random survivors try to escape the zombie. Now, there are a few gripes. One thing is, one of the people at the birthday party has a camera, and in turn we jump out of the zombie's point of view, which I wish we hadn't done. That's the gimmick, stay with the zombie. There's also a few things that zombie nerds might complain about. Like, at first when he's hungry, the zombie tries to bite his own arm, and it's like, oh no, that doesn't work. That's a little weird. And I won't spoil it, but the end of this short is a divisive thing among zombie fans, so I am curious if you thought the ending was a good idea or if it just totally didn't work or anything. But still, POVs of a zombie, cool birthday party massacre. This was a fun segment. Moving on to The third segment, Safe Haven, directed by Garret Hugh Evans. And I think this is probably the best one. This one was really good. You get this camera crew that's given a rare opportunity to interview this cult. It's this group that thinks they found a way to heaven from Earth, opening up a secret gate. And right off the bat, you're a little weary of these people. They got this commune in the middle of nowhere, a big building with all these long halls, and people can corner you before the horror even starts. And you get fun stuff. For example, they have their cameras, but the camera crew sneaks in extra cameras, like the buttons of their shirt, because they know they're not going to be able to film everything. But this will also give us a point of view for the movie later on when they're running around, where it'd be unrealistic to carry a camera. So a really cool setup. But of course, after some creepy, vague foreshadowings of the future in this interview, we get the bell going off and the cult leader standing up. Oh, it's time. And then all heck is gonna break loose. I don't want to spoil too much of what all heck breaking loose is like, but it's really fun with some big extreme moments. You won't see how far they're gonna go. It really reminded me of in the first movie, 10/31/98. In that one, it really was one of those that when the spark is hit, it goes nuts, and it's the same here. Great concept, great execution, phenomenal ending. Safe Haven, easily the best short. Definitely check it out. And then after that, Slumber Party Alien Invasion. While not the best short in here, this is what everyone is talking about because there's aliens. This is directed by Jason Eisener. He's the guy that did Hobo with a Shotgun, but just recently he made the movie Kids vs. Aliens, which is actually a remake of this segment, a VHS spin-off film. That's cool. I'm gonna have to check out Kids vs. Aliens pretty soon, because this was a pretty fun segment. You open up with dumb goof-off kids. They actually have a GoPro rig for their dog, so some of this movie is told from the dog's point of view. That's cool. They're making dumb robot monster movies when their parents leave. Well, you leave some kids alone at a sweet lake house, they're gonna call up their friends and throw a secret slumber party. I do love the crazy youth party energy we see here, and yeah, they go too far sometimes. It is a wild and crazy party, but yeah, you see that spirit there. Woohoo, no parents! And getting into trouble. But that being said, trouble will come for them. The first hint we get is a GoPro sees a strange figure at the bottom of the lake that they don't see, but then bright lights, big pulses, knocking them off their feet. The aliens are coming, and soon it turns into a mad dash for survival. Again, kind of like the first segment here, it is a mad dash, which is really fun, but it, again, doesn't have that focus. There's no goal, like, to escape the aliens, we have to do X, Y, and Z. And no, the segment is just run for your life. But when there's aliens everywhere, I can give it more of a pass. The big thing, though, is I wish it leaned in harder, you know, to aliens, because this is the time to do your crazy sci-fi stuff. Now's your golden moment. And I really wish the aliens did more sci-fi space alien stuff. It's probably a budgetary issue, but that being said, it was a little disappointing. The aliens would just kind of chase you and go, "Rawr!" You know, like, I wish they did better stuff, because to be honest, these aliens, you could substitute them for any number of monsters, and it'd essentially be the same movie. So I wish, even give us just a pie pan flying saucer. I'm gonna get someone saying that was in the background or something, whatever. I am curious though, with more budget and time, the remake of this, Kids vs. Aliens, turning this into a whole movie, I'm curious to see what that will come out like, because here's hoping that'll be good. But anyway, overall, I had fun with this movie. It was a lot better than I thought it would be, and I think the best way, as I think I said earlier in this review, it doesn't hit the highs of VHS 1, but it also doesn't hit the lows of VHS 1. And I think if you were to average everything out, the segments in here are better. It's just, it wasn't as rough and it wasn't as grungy, and we didn't get anything as good as Amateur Night. But overall, it's still a fine sequel. I had fun with it. I heard the next one, VHS Viral, is not as good, but I do want to check it out. I was inspired when the 5th film just now came out on DVD. I'm like, I gotta watch all 5. But doing research on IMDb, I found that Amateur Night had a spin-off film, Siren, and now Slumber Party Alien Abduction has a spin-off film, Kids vs. Aliens. So there's actually 7 movies in this franchise I got to get to. So this is going to be a fun deep dive as I cover more of these in the future. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Anthology horror playlist. If you want to see me talk about more things, Anthology horror, like Trilogy of Terror, I've covered that, or the All Hallows Eve movies, there's a few things in here, some fun stuff. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Anthology playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.